So these 4 bullets represent the key best practices for row or aisle level airflow management. We'll get into much greater detail on each of these on some of the subsequent slides, but I wanted to do a quick overview right now. So the first thing is blocking off open spaces under the racks. So cabinets are often delivered with casters and levelers to aid with initial deployment. So if your cabinets have casters and levelers, then by default, you'll end up with a gap between the floor and the bottom of the rack, and blocking this gap is what we're referring to here. The second is sealing open spaces in the cabinet rows. So depending on site conditions, some layouts will end up with gaps between the racks due to support structures, other types of barriers in the room, or intentional space that's been left there for a future roll-in rack. Installing aisle end doors. So this prevents the wraparound mixing that will occur at the aisle ends if doors are not used. So doors are very important, and they're available in many designs from a variety of manufacturers, and we'll get into greater detail about doors on some of the subsequent slides. And lastly, the top of rack containment. So hot aisle containment typically features an above rack barrier around the perimeter of the hot aisle and typically extends upwards from the racks to the top of the ceiling, or vice versa from the ceiling down to the top of the racks. And cold aisle containment could involve a roof or a capped aisle or even a partially capped aisle that spans across the cold aisle. And again, more to come on both of these as we get into the presentation.
For containment, typically installing containment above the cabinets is done for higher density environments, but it's also potentially very important for other layouts in the room where there may be a low ceiling and when the cooling units may be on opposing walls, causing the exhaust air from a hot aisle to flow over the top of a cold aisle to get back to the cooling units. They're always going to provide some improvement and enable the further reduction of fan speeds and potentially raising cooling unit set points to further optimize the room. In cold aisles, they look like baffles or a full roof. And we're going to show you some examples of those here.
All right, thanks, Lars. So I'll talk about the one on the right. So this is your kind of capped aisle in a cold aisle containment solution. So you're looking at a long aisle here. It's 20 cabinets on each side. They're wide cabinets. They're 32 inches wide each. The real kind of nice feature for capping an aisle is cabinets that are the same height throughout the aisle on both sides. And if you don't have that, and if you've got that kind of skyline profile, there are ways, easy ways to accommodate and end up with the same result. But nonetheless, the capped aisle, these are panels. Think of a picture frame. So you got an aluminum frame with an insert there with some special material that shrinks. It doesn't melt. It kind of deforms and kind of falls out of the frame when it reaches about 135 degrees. And that's before the temperature of a sprinkler head might go off above it. So from a fire suppression standpoint, this works well in most all environments and is supported with your local jurisdiction because these panels or the inserts will flutter out of the frames before the sprinkler system goes off. And we're talking like way less than a pound each. These are like leaves falling off the tree in the fall. So you have, you buy these things at different widths to span the aisle. This is a 48-inch aisle. These things either rest on or mount on the cabinets across the aisle from one another. So that's an example of a capped or fully enclosed roof for cold aisle containment.
Thank you, Rob. And on the right here, we see examples of the upside aisle lock rack top baffles. And these angled baffles are intended for cold aisles. The angle is fixed. It doesn't move. It's not adjustable, and it's not tied to the fire suppression system. The opening is what allows this to be approved by fire marshals. Leaving it partially open prevents it from obstructing gaseous fire suppression, can obviously get in. And to date, we're not aware of any fire marshals objecting to the baffles blocking the sprinkler spread. as long as the requirement of 18 inches from the top of the baffle to any sprinkler head is maintained, these have been accepted by local fire marshals. The baffles are modular in that there's one baffle for each cabinet, and they are purchased in widths that match the width of the cabinet. And they attach magnetically, completely toollessly. You can see at the back of each baffle, those silver portions, those silver elements are a cup magnet. And so these come out of the box and you tilt them into place and the magnets attach and they're there. One of the great benefits of these is that they are removable. So if there's cable trays or a need to access the tops of the cabinets, these can easily be removed and then replaced.